Welcome, everybody, at another episode of the Titan Business Builders. And today I have a guest from America, Rick Fronek.
It's
Hey,
good to be
Rick,
here.
how are you doing?
Good to see you, Steven. How you doing?
Good. I'm going to try to announce you as good as I can. I'm going to keep it short. You are the CEO of Worksmarter4u.
Correct.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Tell the audience a little bit, just like your elevator pitch. Let's do that.
Okay. No, that's a good way to put it. WorkSmarter4u is a marketing consultancy service that we actually specialize in using the latest marketing trends that actually incorporates video technology. And that's something that we've spent over the last 16 to 18 months actually expanding out more into the video marketing, because, as you know, that over the course of the last year, the trends have been into video. It's been, no matter what platform you go on, that's what's getting the most engagement. That's what people are tuning into. So we actually saw that at the beginning of last year, even before the COVID crisis struck. And so we started looking into that to branch out, because we were trying to find a way where we can not just be one dimensional. So where when you do have a client or a customer or an entrepreneur, somebody come to you, you're able to offer them more than just one specific thing. Okay, because it's like with marketing, it's not a one size fits all type thing, and that's where a lot of the stuff that you see online nowadays, that's what they try to pitch people and sell people, is that all you need is this one thing, and then you're going to have success doing it. And that's totally not the case at all. So we specialize in the video marketing, and where we actually take that and tie it into the specific niche that our customer or client. And like I said, we do work with a lot of entrepreneurs too. So it's people that are just starting out online who have no idea how to get started online. That's the biggest thing, is because a lot of people get frustrated because there's so many different offers and opportunities out there, and they make it all sound so easy. But the problem is that a lot of times people get frustrated because they start a program or something from a guru, so to speak, and before they know it, they've invested this time and money, and they're not getting anywhere. And so that's where we like to take more of like a hands-on approach, where we're connecting with them and finding out where they want to go from the start, and go from there. Because if you don't really truly understand what the person wants to achieve and what they're passionate about, you're not going to provide them with the best results. So that's what we kind of do, is we try to get more I don't want to use the term, a lot of people are using it now as holistic, but getting a good background approach to what our customers or the entrepreneurs are looking for, what they really want to achieve, and understanding more about them personally. And then we kind of orchestrate our strategies and our game plans to help them. Like within the case with a business, I'll say this: a lot of times businesses come to us and they have the nuts and bolts of what they want to do, but they just don't know how to go about doing it. Okay, so they have good ideas and everything, but they need somebody to kind of like get them pushed over the edge, so to speak, to actually implement it. And that's where we take pride in being able to do that. That's something that a lot of people, they have their ideas, but they just don't know how to get them going. And so that's so in a nutshell, kind of it really depends on the client or the customer, and what their main goal is. If they, that's why what I found out the most is that the more information you can get from somebody and connect with them on their personal level, as far as to why they are doing what they're doing and what they're achieving, because everybody has great ideas, and especially like entrepreneurs, there's a lot of people that have great ideas, but they just don't know how to get it rolling. Okay, so that's where we take there's actually like a series of questions that I've kind of come up with over the years that are like trigger questions, where it's stuff that the people never heard before. And especially like when you go into like a local business owner or something, like a brick and mortar shop, where you have a small business that they're used to the people walking in, off the streets. They're not used to having to deal with online, marketing and selling online. So when we walk into them and we talk to them, we try to get back to where they came up with their initial idea. Okay, and it's like they're always wanting to try and be the big next Walmart, Target, or like Amazon, but at the same time, they still want to have that uniqueness about them. That's what makes them different than everybody else. And so it's like the biggest thing is finding out really the nuts and bolts of what the people do behind the scenes. Why they decided to do their job.
Yeah, really the purpose of the business, right?
Right.
Really finding and going deep into that question.
Right.
It's not always about earning money, especially for the brick and mortar stores that started out.
Right.
I know, like over 10 years ago, I started a brick and mortar store as well, like a computer store.
Mm-hmm.
And that was also with the purpose, like helping people in the neighborhood to really get them into the computer and an IT and online. And that was my purpose. So, but you're right, like not a lot of them have the right kind of strategy as well to execute on that.
Right.
And this is also your story where you started out as well, and you saw this need for a lot of these local businesses that they didn't embrace digital marketing, the online marketing, because they didn't know it, because they didn't know the impact maybe.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about what do you feel has the biggest can the biggest impact be for a business if it's about digital marketing?
As far as cause around here where I'm actually just outside of Chicago in Illinois in the United States. And like for this area here, it's, as far as like the manufacturing industry and the tool and die industry, and that's where like the one company that I worked for, it was a machine shop, and I was a manager there, and I worked in their sales too. But at the same time, what I saw them doing is they wanted to stick to the old traditional values. Okay. And so when it comes to taking like a brick and mortar store or, somebody that you would actually just walk into normally and getting them online, for one, they're going to need the confidence that they can do it. But at the same time, what's going to set them apart is being able to still create that personalized feel to it, because a lot of stuff, even like with website builders and that out there, a lot of them, there's a dozen that if you go to 100 sites, about a dozen of them are going to look the same. So if you could take that, even like even a common website, but then shape it to make it more unique to fit the the brick and mortar stores approach, that's what I've actually found is has actually helped them kind of evolve into it. And this actually even took place with one person that I know that actually had a church where the church didn't ever, if you look online, yes, some of the bigger churches have their websites in that, but this was from a smaller community. And the internet, yes, some of the people would use it in that, but they never even thought about doing a website. So that's one thing I did is I took what, the priest's ideas and how he wanted to approach it. And it's like, his website is a lot different than every other website for a church goes. So it's like, you have to really connect with them and then also just make it unique to them, so they stand out, and let them know that that's what's actually going to attract more customers to them, is not being the carbon copy like every other business online. And because like, I'm sure, you see it all the time. I mean, you go to a lot of different websites and they all look the same. They all have the same layout, and it's like, it's almost like the presentations, like if you get invited to webinars and that, all of them have the same step-by-step format. Okay. And that's where, and actually I went to a convention back in 2017, and there's a guy down there, Dave Van Hoos is the gentleman. He actually did, he spent a day and a half talking how to present. And everything that he shared in his presentation to us at this convention, I've watched in 99% of all these people, the big name people out there, use his method. And part of it is because like even like Tony Robbins is one of the people that he actually trained him how to do a speech, and like Les Brown, a motivational speaker, but they all use his exact format. So if you ever tune in late to a webinar or something online, you can actually, usually you can wait the first 10 minutes, and then they're going to actually start getting into the nuts and bolts. And then after that, about a third of the way through, then they're doing their sales pitch, so it's all the same carbon copy thing. Whereas, like with business owners, they see that, and what I've run into is that they all hear the sales pitch, Okay, so when you're talking with a new business, the main thing that I found is like, if you can, like I said, I've come up with questions over the years that are kind of like trigger questions, but when they make that comment afterwards, like, hey, nobody's ever asked me that, that's like one of the, I've had that happen a couple times where it's like, they look at me and it's like, well, that's funny, nobody's ever asked me that, because they're just waiting to, hear you do your sales pitch.
Yeah.
But when you can separate yourself, and that's what I found to be the, probably actually, I wouldn't say the, for sure sale, but once you ask them something that they know is different, then they're going to, their odds are they're going to listen more to your sales proposal or what you propose to them. Because like a lot of stuff with what I do is I'll meet with a customer, and then, I'll usually for about an hour and a half. And then I'll give them about 2 or 3 days, and then I'll follow up with them a call and then ask a couple other questions and ask if he has any questions or her. And then after that, I'll start working on the game plan for them. Okay. And most of the time, once you have that one question or that something where they, like I said, they look at it, across the table from you and say, nobody's ever asked me that. When you contact them, they're excited to talk to you because you've connected with them. And then also when you go to submit your proposal to them or go over everything with them, I've noticed that the clients or the customers like that, they're like really focused on what you're sharing. Okay, so it is a really big key is so to kind of create that unique approach.
What would that question be? I'm curious now. If you tell me you are really interested in your questions, give us an example.
Okay, the one that I've found that really works really well is on day one, when you first started, when you came up with the idea for your business, what was the one thing, the number one trigger for your passion? What made you decide to want to do this? What made you decide to share this with the world? And usually because you're asking them to answer from an emotional perspective, because usually like in sales, once you make that emotional connection, that's what's usually gets the sale, is if you make that emotional connection. So like even when you're doing that, when you're talking to a customer, if you can get them to like actually share something really emotional or really something personal about why they're doing what they're doing, that's usually like 9 out of 10 times, that's usually the one question where they kind of stop because they kind of look at you like, why are you asking me that? And it's like, well, because I want to know why you're doing this, because if we can take that, your passion or whatever you have, and incorporate that into your marketing, that's what other people are going to see too. Because that's where, like I said, and I tell a lot of people, it's like you look at Walmart, Target, and Amazon, all those, they don't really care about the person individually per se. They're just they care about the sale. That's it. So it's like, they try to make it have that approach. But after I worked in sales for Target for 5 years. And that's where I went from manufacturing and sales to working at Target in sales for like 5 years. And after that, I was like, what, this has got to change, because there's so much more that I can offer people than just being a sales floor, person on the sales floor. And even during that time frame, I realized that the customers that would come up to me, the ones that you would actually, treat them more like a person as to what they really want, opposed to just like, well, yeah, here's the product, over there and buy it, or point it in their direction. But when you connect with them, they'd appreciate that. And so that's where like the one thing I found is like, if you can really get them to open up to something personal, that's going to do it. And then also the thing that I also ask them that I found to work really well too is, okay, just ask them, if you had your ideal scenario, where would you like to be 2 years from now? Don't say a year, because it's kind of, people really don't know how to respond. Okay, they'll say, yeah, I'd like to double sales. But like if they answer something with kind of generic, try to get them to be more specific. Because that's where it makes them realize that you're not just looking at the here and now, you're looking at where they are long term. And I think that's where I think a lot of things nowadays with marketing, and that is, it's just people are are trying to get the quick sale, the quick buck. But if you can actually connect with your customer, and that's especially with entrepreneurs too, it's like, yeah, they have their dreams of what they want to do, but they're not quite sure how to start. But at the same time, if you can get them to think about where they want to be down the road, and that way they know that you're not just trying to get an immediate sale, that you're trying to let them have success. And that's where I've always, with my customers, said that, even if, a year or two down the road or something, if you have questions or you want to run something by me or whatever, yeah, don't hesitate to reach out. But in most cases, I've stayed in touch with the people I've worked with even 3 and 4 years ago. So
now, I mean, I truly believe in this way of working, and creating relationships is something that we do every single day. That's why I also started Titanology, to create that community amongst business owners, so that you can actually just help each other without always having to need to do a sale, for example.
Right.
Now, a lot of people would say, yeah, okay, Rick, but that's like the old-fashioned way, Now it's like fast, 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 fast. Let's go. Quick win. Let's just throw some money at it, and let's just hope it works, and we'll see afterwards. Now, I'm not saying I am a fan of that, but what would you say to people that this kind of relationship building, it takes time, it's like old-fashioned,
Realistically, with the way I do it, within a week's time, you've already built up almost the relationship like you're their friend. I mean, and realistically, that's how I treat all the customers. Okay, because I don't want, like I said, they're used to the sales pitch. They're used to somebody just saying, okay, here, you spend $5,000 on this or whatever, and you're going to get this software, and it's going to instantaneously crank out 10 times your return on investment. They're used to that approach. But if you can actually take the personal side of it, and then, show them a little bit further how that software or whatever you're going to share with them, whatever your product is, like in the case with mine with the video marketing software, I've got 3 different types of software where I can actually combine all 3, even though they're different styles, into one, which kind of puts them separates them from their competition, because it's a little bit different than the normal one style that everybody has. So like if you can, like usually with something like that, I try to tie in some sort of package where it's more of a long-term thing. Okay, which, as the, like, say, we're in July, or like if I did like a promotion or something for somebody now, I would tie in something to work with them, in the holiday season, around Christmas time. So that's, when you approach it that way, to show them even that shows them the short term, but then, once they see what it can do for them, that's when they try to tie in a long-term contract or something to deal with you on a longer basis. So that's where, if you can show them the short gains, but also the long gains, that's usually where you can make a long-term connection. So it's, but so like the bigger places that, there was one customer, one time I said, after I spent an hour with him, I said, I was trying to wrap things up with him, and he's like, oh, I'm interested, but I really don't want to spend any money. And I'm like, I looked at him and I'm like, what? I said, okay, I understand what you're saying. Well, it's just, I'm just not sure. And I'm like, well, at some point, you're going to have to, make that step, take that plunge or whatever into something new. And this is a guy who had a local shop. And, I said, look, if you're really wanting, because I asked him what his 2 to 5 year plan was. And he thought about it for a couple of minutes, and then he actually, came up with some answers. But I said, if you really want to do this, I said, we can start out small and then scale it. But you really have to look at where you really want to be. And if you're serious about growing, this is what you're going to have to do. And what I did, my proposal to him, I gave him a couple of choices as far as short-term and long-term. And, of course, because the long-term one was a little bit more, he just, was more interested in just the short-term. So it's like, you do have to rise it, you have to expand. And that's what I found probably my biggest key for my business, was realizing don't be one-dimensional, and don't be afraid to invest in your company or invest in yourself. Because if you're not necessarily getting results where you're at, then you need to look at it, take a step back, and take a different approach to it.
Absolutely, absolutely. This is something that I told yesterday to one of my customers as well, where he had his offer, and he was already talking to a lot of people, and they liked it, but they wanted slightly something different, and he was still questioning about, yeah, but should I really do that?
Yeah.
For me, it's like, sure, you should do that because it creates that relationship. And once you get that relationship and you build on top of that, eventually you will come to a situation where you can actually implement what you originally had as an offer.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, of course, it's a mindset thing, you know. And I think you know this as well. Once you grow your company, once you want to scale your company, you have to invest. But one of the roadblocks is that mindset. Is
Right.
that mindset that you want to invest, but you're like scared? Like, how did you solve that kind of a roadblock?
I actually, believe it or not, part of what kind of got me to where I ran into that roadblock is I was initially, when I made the switch from, I went from manufacturing and being in sales and that to retail sales, was when I started my company, I had a mentor. And he had his set ways of teaching, which every mentor does. But what I noticed too with the mentor is that he's always like, if you don't resonate with, he's always telling people, if you don't resonate with me, then don't tune into me and don't follow what I'm teaching you. But at the same time, he's also telling us that if we can't hit results like he's hitting, then we're not doing something right. So what I started to do, it's like when I was going, I thought at that point when I started my business that with him, I had all the tools in place of what I needed to do to have my business be successful for years to come. But what I realized that because of the way marketing is constantly evolving, and especially now, especially with the videos and everything right now, which is really huge, that's something that he wasn't even really talking about. So that's where I started looking into the video thing. But then at the same time, the one guy that I actually got most of my software from, he actually did one-on-one training too. And as I saw his approach to it, he took a different approach. It was because, when you're dealing with video opposed to just straight software, like say, for example, like ClickFunnels or something like that. When you're using video, you have to have a different approach to it. Okay. And so that it opened up my eyes too. And it's like, you know what, I've been following, and I'm not going to take anything away from my mentor. I learned a ton from him. But yet he, in a way, was one-dimensional in his approach. And so that's where, when I started with the software, it's like I started listening to this guy's mentoring and his approach to marketing with digital. And it's like, I took that and combined it with what my other mentor was teaching me. And so that was one thing I was going to say today was that don't be afraid to have more than one mentor. At least get a different perspective, because when you run into these stumbling blocks in your business, because, you have to pull the trigger in order to spend the money. Okay. You do have to make that decision. And a lot of people I know tend to get hesitant on doing that because they're not making they run into a stumbling block where they're not making as much money as they thought they were going to make. And it's like, well, do I spend more money and then continue to not make as much? But when I realized that with getting the different approach from another mentor, that triggered me. It's like, I need to take a step back and look at my approach to it. And that's one thing that this is going to be, and I was going to refer to Bob Proctor at some point here, but one thing that he's made in some of his programs and stuff that he shares is that, write your problem down on a piece of paper and then go sit across the desk from yourself and look at it from that angle. And when he first said that the first time, I'm like, what the heck is he talking about? I just wrote it down. But, when you do that, what he's trying to get, he's like, look at it from a different perspective. And so that's where, having a different mentor, that actually got me to look at things a little bit differently. And but actually at the same time, it made me more, instead of just exclusive in a specific niche, it gave me more capabilities to be, I guess, put it this way, I guess, service my customers or clients in a more roundabout way, because I was able to offer them more than just software and different types of advertising things where I could actually combine everything into a nice package form. So it gave me more versatility. But that was the biggest thing was really the mindset thing was and that's where like with Bob Proctor, he made the comment that, we all have the ability to choose how we look at something. In most cases, people tend to look at things on the negative side. But even if something bad happens, there's still a positive side to it if you can, take a step back and look at it. And that's what I found too, is like if you kind of work on that on yourself personally daily, which is something that I do, it does make a difference. Because even if you're like focusing on like one specific niche or one specific customer or something, you're not having the success that you want. It is time to take a step back, and sometimes it could be just like a half a day or stop doing what you're doing, and then like Bob Proctor said, look at it from the other side of the table. Or he said, and he goes like, well, look at it how I would look at it, and because that is the thing, is you have to look at it from the customer's perspective, not just yours, because you know what the product or the software or whatever what it can do for them. But you have to put yourself in their shoes to be able to explain it to them so they will understand it. So a lot of that is the mindset. It's like, personally for me, like every day, my goal is to make an impact on whoever I come in contact with. If I can make some sort of positive impact on their life, then that to me is what's going, that's just as fulfilling as having a sale. Even if I don't make a sale, but if I get somebody to consider something different. And that's where I think if you spend like when I used to work in sales for the one machine shop, I'd have other sales guys come in talking to me, trying to get me to get the owner to buy something. And a lot of times they were in and out within 20 to 30 minutes, and they all had the same routine. And it's like, okay, there's got to be something better than this. So I saw it, and what was weird is the one company I was in the manufacturing company, I actually was on their customers' end of things first. When I got out of the Army, I worked for this one company that was a medical instrument. They created medical instruments for hospital research, and that's where I started. And I was in purchasing there. But then the one owner from this one machine shop, she says, "Well, why don't you come work for me? And you'll be right below me and the owner, and we'll make you in charge of sales and in charge of production." And so I actually got to see both sides of the coin. I saw from the customer standpoint, because I was on the customer end at one point. Then I saw on the manufacturer, I was supplying the customer. So that actually gave me a lot of insight, or behind the scenes, so to speak, approach to sales, and as far as making connections with people. So yeah, it's kind of interesting when I think back.
Story, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But it's interesting to talk about it because people need to hear this.
Yeah.
It's not just about the quick wins. It's not just about turning on Facebook ads and everything will be all right. It's just so much more than that.
Right.
So, Rick, we're almost at the end here. So where can people find you to learn more about you?
Okay, so actually, believe it or not, I've been spending the last probably a month updating my worksmarter4u.com website, and I'm still not completely done with it, but I did get it switched over from the other server and everything this morning, so it is live, so that they can reach out to me there. And the one thing too that I wanted to say is I guess probably my last tidbit here would be is when you're on your journey to your success or whatever you're trying to do in life, whether you're an entrepreneur or a business owner, just look at the actions that you take daily. You hear people say this, but it actually comes back to the mindset thing where you actually have to train yourself to do it. But the actions you take today, are they building towards where you want to be tomorrow and in the future? And that's like one of the things that I was telling you about the software, and that's one step I took. But then even like this past December, I had this company, 7K, that was introduced to me, where when I heard it, it was a no-brainer. But at the same time, what it basically is where they created this company in order to let the average everyday person save in the form of silver and gold in kind of like a 401k style type thing. And, when this actually was introduced to me, it kind of resonated with me, one, because it's an interest. Okay, people should save in the form of silver and gold, but also at the same time, I'm like, a lot of these smaller businesses out there, they're not like the big corporations and companies that can offer 401k plans. So they don't really have anything to offer their employees. And so since then, I've actually shared that idea with, some of the businesses at local businesses here, and it's actually made an impact. It's like, no, I didn't even know anything like that existed. So that was like one thing. That was one thing when it was brought up to me. I'm like, well, how is this going to fit into what my long-term vision is? But when I took that step back and I'm looking at the information from the company, I'm like, well, this actually fits in perfectly for these other smaller businesses that can't, afford to do that. They're like a lot of the bigger corporations can. So yes, just, be open to different ideas, but at the same time, make sure that it fits in with your overall goals and your plans.
Awesome. Love it. I love it, Rick. Lots of wisdom there, and people should definitely listen to this one. All right, Rick, I want to thank you for your time, for your value that you shared with us. And let's catch up later and see how we're doing.
Sounds good. Okay.
Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening.
I appreciate it.
Each other next week. Bye-bye. Bye.
All right. Thanks, Devin.